Well, hey there, folks. Just got done mowing the backyard. Today is August 6th, 2022. In case anyone's interested in what time it is, since the sun's not out right now, you can see it's going down. It is 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Got the fire pit going here. Show you the lawn. Just got done mowing it. We have had a few days of rain. Not a lot of rain, but we did get, I guess, a decent amount for this area. And with the rain, it brings the humidity. And when the humidity is a bit higher, the grass definitely tends to be greener. Never looks that great after you mow it. But if I would have videoed it before I mowed it, boy, it was a nice deep green. I mean, it still looks good, but before you mow it, oh look, there's a hummingbird right there. Sitting on the feeder right there. We had a squirrel in the backyard today. We had a whole bunch of hummingbirds. And the wife said she even saw a woodpecker back here a couple times. I've never seen the woodpecker, but I did research it. And apparently there are woodpeckers here where we live. So I'm going to have to keep an eye out for that. She said she's even heard it pecking on trees or something or another. So I'm definitely going to have to keep an eye out for that woodpecker, because that would be really neat if I could catch that on video. I know, I still haven't planted any of this stuff, but I will, don't you worry. Eventually I will. The grapevine over here is getting bigger and bigger since the tortoises are no longer in the main yard. The fish are getting larger, and they definitely are a koi fish. They're starting to get orange, some of them. See one there. I'm going to have to, I have an underwater camera. I'm going to have to figure out how to use that and put it under there. So yeah, I definitely want to catch the woodpecker. And I did post another video earlier of another squirrel in the backyard. It's not the same squirrel as before, it's a bigger squirrel. It has more red on it, and it has a much bushier tail. So I know we have at least two that go through our backyard, which is pretty neat. This grapevine over here is starting to grow better too, since the tortoises are no longer over here. They really love grapevine leaves. I have a great big one on the side where they are, and they get to eat that whenever they want. Of course, there's the goat I mention every time, one of the centerpieces to my yard here. You can see the gladiols are blooming. Meh, meh. I've been a bad boy. Awesome goat. I do have a little trail camera set up there, hoping to catch the squirrel, because it comes right over here and it eats the seeds that the birds drop. I noticed it there quite a lot today. You can see the mountains in the background there and the antenna. Of course, it's not up, it's in the lowered position. They rarely crank it up anymore. There's really no reason to. If I get on there for skip, it works just fine like that. I rarely talk to any of these guys local anymore. If I do want to talk to one of them that's like 40 miles away, 50 miles away, I'll crank it up. But I very rarely talk to anybody local anymore. The skip's a lot funner, and the folks on skip You know who you are. You guys down south there in Tennessee and places like that. You guys are a lot nicer type of folk that live out there, I'll tell you that. Not a bunch of jerks like we have living out here. It's crazy. You guys seem like you still have manners and you're polite. And the squirrel has also been eating the seeds out of my mammoth sunflowers from last year. You can see there's only a few left, so they've definitely been taking advantage of that. This is filling in. If you remember, this just used to be dirt. Since we got water here, it's definitely starting to fill in a bit. It'll be a lot better next year. Still have to decide what I'm going to do with that. That's a locust tree that's growing from a seed that probably either blew in from the neighbor's yard or my tree that I used to have before it got blown down. It's pretty close to the gate, the fence here. But then again, my neighbor's tree is right on the fence, so I may leave it and get a tree out of it. If it grows crazy, I can always cut it down in the future, so I think I'm going to leave it there. I did leave some sunflowers in the yard. They bring some color. They're in the planters right there, the metal planters. The ivy's on the third year. It's a slow grower, but it's finally starting to take hold here. My locust tree miraculously started growing again, and I was so happy. But then the high winds came and it broke off all the branches except for that one on there. So hopefully it'll start growing again. Who knows what's going to be of that? We'll just have to wait and find out. Here's some quartz rocks I gathered here a few weeks ago out in the desert. A lot of quartz and minerals in those. A lot of cool rocks over here. That's why we have these. Each rock has its own, personality or something we've gathered from out in the desert. There's some more with quartz in it here. There's my fountain for the birds. And I did add another bird feeder right there. I don't think they found it yet because it's still full. The more the better. Maybe it'll attract more squirrels. Here's the half wine barrels in front of my shed. You can see the marigolds. They really start to thrive this time of year, starting to look real nice. I'm going to have to replenish the soil in these pots for next year. You can see how low they've gotten. Because when I planted all this stuff, I put pieces of wood and all kinds of organic material, leaves at the base of the pot, and then put soil in there, and it's all broken down. And I also have composting, just a small handful of composting worms in all my pots. So it'll definitely have to be replenished for next year, but it's looking really nice. This one here is where I had all those onions, and I recently pulled them out, and I got a whole big giant Tupperware of onion bulbs. Not big, probably about so big. The wife used about a good half of them in a recipe she made in the crock pot tonight with soup bones and beans and veggies and all kinds of good stuff. Tasted real good. So they're definitely getting used. This barrel here is looking great. Well, that's really growing nicely this year here. This is a perennial. It comes back every year. There's the old windmill. After I welded that, it's never broken again, even in our crazy winds. I really didn't want any sunflowers over here this year, but one popped up in the pot, so I left it. So we'll leave that there. The birds will eat the seeds, and maybe the squirrels or something will go up there and eat them. And then here's my wood pile for the fire pit. This here is lodgepole pine. Most of this big pile here on the bottom is all cottonwood. And then on the top, most of that on the top is all lodgepole pine as well. As you can see, I keep stock with a lot of wood, and all that's for is our fire pit. And here's that big grapevine I was talking about that the tortoises have access to. You can see it's starting to grow onto my wood pile there. This here is on its third year. It's doing really well. The grapes are probably ready to come off. I really need to check them. But yeah, the tortoises love to eat that. That's where the tortoises live, right under there. And it's kind of dark in here, but I wanted to show those grapes. They look like they're almost ready to come off in there. There's quite a bunch on there. These ones back here are still green. They're not ready yet. But we've got a lot of grapes on it this year. And of course my compost bin is right here. And it's full of red wiggler worms. And it all goes down to the bottom and just gives this grapevine all kinds of nutrients. That's why it does so much better than the other ones. And I never really thought about this when I stacked the wood here. Not only is it my wood to burn in the fire pit, but it also makes an excellent place for the lizards to live. Because the lizards can go in all these little cracks. And I'm sure a squirrel could live in one of those cracks if it really wanted to. Makes a good little ecosystem. Little spiders and all kinds of stuff go in there, and then the lizards can go in there and eat the spiders, and just happen to work out that way. I never really thought about it. And I'll tell you, I never use any pesticides in my yard. I get people knocking on my door telling me, they spray for my neighbors, and who sprays for me, and how important it is to spray for the bugs, and blah 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 blah. And it was the same way in Vegas too. I had a whole little ecosystem in the yard that none of my neighbors had, because down there they just had all dirt yards. No one really took care of anything. And even though it was a smaller yard there, I tried to make it as green and my little backyard oasis, the best I could. Nothing compared to this. But there in Vegas, Phoenix, other places like that, you have Mediterranean geckos. I don't know if that's where they originally came from, but that's what they call them, Mediterranean house geckos. They're smaller than the lizards we have here, maybe about a third of the size or so. But I had them everywhere in the backyard, in all the little nooks and crannies, and in the center block wall, and just everywhere. And they'd come out at night, and that was my insecticide. They would eat all the undesirable insects, and the whole ecosystem worked great. And I even brought in a few toads and put them in the yard, and just everything worked together. Never had bugs in the house ever. Same thing here. I don't spray anything in here because I don't want to harm my tortoises. I don't want to harm the lizards we have back here or any of the other little creatures. And it all balances out. It really does balance out. So that's what works for me. The only thing I don't like seeing are black widows. And even then, I leave them alone. I don't spray them or kill them. I just let them be. They usually stay in their own place. Usually a black widow will make a web like, right there at the end of the pot. I'm sure there's one there. There'll be another one over here. That's where they make their webs, places like this. Back here, this here's a black widow web. You can tell they make a really messy web. I don't know if you could see it. You can see some debris there in the web. But they'll only come in at night. They hunt, do what they need to do, and in the daytime they go away. They like to avoid people, and so far I've never had a problem with one. So even though I think they're creepy and I don't like spiders, I leave them alone. And everything works. Alright folks, thanks for watching. It's a real nice night in the backyard tonight. It's a little bit humid, not much, probably about 30% give or take. And it's mild weather. and the sun's down, and it just makes for a really nice time back here in the backyard. I did put some new birdhouses there too. I put one there and one over there. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Hope everyone out there is having a good evening, and we'll catch you next time.